welcome to our session this afternoon. Like all good business people, we haven't prepared at all, but you have three people on the stage who know a hell of a lot about website optimization and conversion rate. So we're actually we have questions. We should probably loosely use them because Airi has actually prepped, but what I might do is get everybody to introduce themselves first. So would you like to start, Airi?
Yeah, so my name is Airi Sutherland. I have been working in e-commerce and digital for over 12 years now, largely across fashion retail and direct-to-consumer brands. So yeah, looking forward to chatting about some of those common website woes that we all encounter day to day.
Great, David.
Yes, so I've been working in e-com as well for probably, not to outdo you, probably for 20. Yeah, same thing, been on, everything from sort of small sites to significantly big sites that have been there and come and gone. So yeah, got some war stories. So yeah, be good.
And if you're new to me, I'm Lisa Jones. I had an eco nappy brand called Eco Originals that I had the pleasure of building and selling, and I have had 4 or 5 other e-commerce websites in that time, and I now have Shecom, which is a huge community for women-founded D2C product brands. And one of my genius zones is website conversion. If you ask me about SEO or profitability, I'm going to go glazed over, but CRO is something I'm really passionate about. And I think for me, I'll start by saying it's because it's kind of unsexy. Everybody talks about paid ad acquisition and it's all cool and everyone flashes and splashes money around when it comes to meta. But to me, there's no point even driving traffic to a site unless you've optimized the site first. So we always start at Shecom by helping women, particularly women, because that's my flavor, but helping people build brands starting with optimizing their website, and not just the homepage, but product pages, and let's optimize your checkout, and let's make sure that the site is fast and all the functional pieces. So I think for all of us, we're going to have a robust chat, but I'm very open. If you have a question that is burning, please put your hand up and you're more than welcome to ask it. This is a panel with a bit of interaction. That's probably the way I would prefer it. But let's just start. I would love to ask each of you, what's a mistake you've seen brands make? And maybe, can I get an indication in the audience? Hands up if you're what we might call a small business. Let's go under 100K a month in website revenue. And what about a medium business, under $1 million a month in revenue? Right, and then what about a larger plus 1 million a month, maybe going up more into larger enterprise? Okay, so majority is small and medium, actually mostly medium, interestingly, but let's start with mistakes. So Airi, is there something with regards to website mistakes that you've seen or still continue to see, or perhaps when you start with a new brand, you're like...
Yeah, look, I think when I'm talking to founders and when I go into a new brand, I do find that a lot of the time these brands think that they have a traffic problem or a marketing problem, but when you dig below the surface, what's actually going on behind the scenes is that they have an identity problem. And that isn't to say that they're getting the traffic to the site, but they're really not thinking a lot beyond that first session. And as we know, most customers take anywhere between 3 to 7 sessions to actually make that first purchase. And if we're not able to find a way to identify that customer early on, they're probably not actually making it to checkout during that first visit at all. Then essentially when they come back, we're just dropping them back to the start of that journey. And I think that is where a lot of lost revenue can silently slip away, because we're not able to match that session back to an ID. We're not using server-side tracking, and we're not able to, when they come back to us, actually completely rehydrate that session and pick them up from where they left off last time.
Great. David, what's some of the mistakes that you see?
Yeah, look, I'd say mine will be sort of it feels like common sense, but is still mobile first. I think it's quite, I'd almost want to know in the room who actually, when someone, even a developer, says that we've just done this piece of work for you, and they open it up on the screen and you all start looking at it on desktop and you don't go to mobile. So I think that experience for me is so critical, with 85% plus traffic being on mobile. I think straight away everyone should be looking at that, knowing that most people won't scroll that far. It's not TikTok, it's not Insta, it's your site. Getting that information at the top, I think a lot's lost there, because that's that navigation point. So I'm still surprised. I think if I've been in it for 20 years, we've been talking mobile first for 5, and people still literally forget, hey, if I'm opening something up, go straight to mobile. forget desktop, that will flow.
I think we get so caught in that trap as well, because we're in the office, right? We're sitting in front of a laptop or a
100%.
desktop, and we go, oh, that
Jesus,
PDP
sexy.
optimization looks amazing. And then we often actually don't take the time because we're too busy or we're too lazy to actually go and thoroughly test it on mobile, where for most of us, about 90 to 95% of our traffic is actually showing
Even
up.
function F12.
Exactly.
Just at least that, you know, it's fast. Like you can do it so quickly and just have a look at it. And I think that's because I do that sometimes. And if I'm talking to someone's site, suddenly I'll have a gorgeous widget pop up and a tab come out and a pop-up come up, and there is nothing there anymore. Or a tile because it looks cool and it's sexy, but it's actually the full length of the entire, you know, before you've even got anywhere, which make it shorter, put a couple of blocks under it. Like
or even drag it as well for iPad, because there is a proportion of people, depending on your demographic and vertical, that do use iPads, and so it's dragging it around to make sure that suddenly, that, like you said, a widget doesn't cover something that's really imperative. Might be your main call to action on that section of the site and you've lost it. One of my bugbears is acquisition of customers that are driven through, say, an agency might run the paid acquisition, but then it runs it to a landing page or a website page above the fold that doesn't represent the same messaging. It might be that the branding's slightly off, or the call to action is different, or perhaps even just the main reason that somebody drove from an ad to the site is they land and they're like, wait, that's not what I'm looking for. Like, if you've paid to get someone onto your site, it has to match. And that, in a bigger business, that requires a team that is working together and cohesive. And if you are externalizing your paid ads acquisition, that team has to have the same guidebook that you're using on your website. And that is one of my bugbears, honestly.
And it's the same with across the top. You know, again, on mobile, it was cool to do it. And I'm not saying it's almost boring to have like the typical white bar or, you know, with your hamburger and, you know, but if you're going to not have that, you need to make sure when you put your image in there, viewport size, the hamburger doesn't get locked on a black tile.
I hate that personally.
Because you're on there trying to find search, or you're trying to find the hamburger and it's gone. And it's gone because you've gone, I'm going to make the site look really pretty and cool. But at the end of the day, as soon as the viewport changes, that hamburger's now, it's sitting on a
I went on
too faint to
the
see.
other day, and they had decided to put the search bar only on the homepage, so they're obviously trying to free up space. But of course, every time I wanted to utilize it, I had to go all the way back to the homepage, and I just ended up giving up because it was such a friction point for me as a customer. And they probably thought, oh, it looks great, but I think, you know, we often don't spend enough time actually shopping our own sites to really truly experience those friction points.
And is there any other mistakes we could keep going on? Because I think these are actually really powerful before we talk about some of the other, say, site audits on pages. Like, any other mistakes that you guys come across regularly that bother you? I could probably sit here for an hour and fill it just with mistakes.
I think a big one is, for me at the moment, and I'm doing a lot of shopping right now, what I found is too many, what I would call like a site-wide or a tippy-top banner. So you've got your banner that sits at the top, right? And a lot of people use that to communicate a shipping USP or something like that. I went onto Country Road this morning and there were 4. There was one about Mother's Day delivery times. There was one telling me to sign in to view my rewards balance. There was one telling me to actually download the app. And I was like, I had to click out of all 4 of them because I don't like that messy experience, and I wanted to see the clean homepage, which then on top of that, the homepage actually had their spend and save offering, which was of interest to me. So I think we really have to take that less is more approach, and also look at, you know, realistically, if a customer is eligible and qualifies for the logic that we've set in place for every single one of those, what's that going to look like for them?
Yeah. What about you, David? Another mistake?
Yeah, I mean, I think not focusing on sort of like that traffic, and we might talk about this a bit later on, but I mean, not focusing on where that traffic's coming from. So like, we're talking about the homepage, and we just spent some time talking about it, but also when you look at the stats and the amount of time someone spends on your homepage, it's so quick, or ideally you're driving them to a PLP or a PDP or something like that. So, you know, it's really understanding each of the pages that people are landing on. That again, I think, is something that's often overlooked, and you can get caught up in this pop-up or having this or having a tab, and you just
Well, and I think it's a lost opportunity not to make the most of landing pages. You know, driving traffic even if it's from organic and you're doing a call to action, but take them straight to that hero product or that product that you're specifically referring to rather than going to the homepage, because you can lose them at the homepage, whereas you can do so much with a landing page now, or like a product page, that you can turn it into its own landing page. It's so powerful with such incredible software at our fingertips these days, and it's an opportunity. One of my other bugbears is the hero banner is such a powerful piece of real estate on a homepage, and I feel like 98% of brands I come across don't utilize the hero banner effectively. And I think there's a lot of brands that try and be cool. And I feel like, I wear a couple of hats, and the other one I wear is a ridiculously large shopping spender hat, which means I like pretty things, aka Libran, spend way too much money online. But what I don't like when I land on a website is a hero banner that's trying to be cool, that doesn't necessarily really tell me what they do or how they're going to solve my problem. And I have some pet hates, sunglasses, women looking miserably anorexic and unhappy looking out the window. Like, if you want me to buy your product, I need to look good. Like, it needs to appeal to me visually. And I think a lot of brands try to be really cool and get that really fucking wrong. Just saying.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, where I've been a culprit for it as well, even recently. And you make an image up and you go, creatively you want the text on it, and you don't want to use the text on the site. It's the old typical blocks. So you create the site, then you don't make one for mobile. So then suddenly you're not. So in the end, I'm almost reverting myself back to sort of saying, right, I'm just going to use the typical text, have it done, have a picture over here, so that I know that everything's doing what it's supposed to do. And I know that the text is readable. I know that when someone loads it and they've got a poor connection, things are loading up, they're getting something in front of them. I think we all get caught up too in making sure that our brand font that we pick that's not web safe, so we found it, it's
just classic. You have that argument so
it's the
many
fight
times.
between that trade-off, and I think that is, like you said, when you land on a site, people are not very tolerant anymore, so we are, because we own the brands.
And I remind people all the time, like, when it's your own website, you're like this close to it. You like literally can't see it. You can look at your website and you're messaging 100 times in a row, but you're too close to it to know if it's actually going to sell and convert or not. So split testing, and also running heat mapping and things that can tell you at what point you lose your customers in their journey, but also just create a little group and ask them, here's 5 options, which one would you buy from? Because you can't tell about your own brand. You get too close to it.
I think also that's a great point, but we actually quite often at Outcast would use our own teams as our focus group. So we'd go down to graphics and design and ask a few of the girls to actually go through a new experience that we were testing to get that real live feedback. So you think often, I have to go and pull together a focus group, it's going to cost lots of money, but if you have an office of 50 or 60 staff, then there's your focus group.
Yeah, and that's a good point actually. I don't know, some of your obviously smaller teams, customer service, they know everything. Like, speak to customer service. They're so, sometimes, not in all businesses, but in a lot of businesses, they're the first, everyone tells them. So if you want to get anyone to test your site, send it down to customer service, or even if it's one person, they will find everything that's wrong with
can I
your
one-up
site.
that by saying that at Shecom we use HubSpot, which is a little different to D2C ecom, but we just ran 14,000 customer emails through Claude, and we asked it to identify what are people complaining about, what's the predominant problems that we're seeing, and it built like a 19-page pretty fucking damning report. It wasn't very fun to read, if I'm really honest. Not really what you want to sit down to at 9 o'clock at night, but it was invaluable. So we were able to flick over and go back into our live chat and our FAQs and where we communicate with our customers and say, hang on, there's maybe some messaging we've missed here, which is the incredible world we live in right now. Like, Sam, my CMO over at Shecom the other day, she sent me a little video, which she probably shouldn't have sent me, but she was driving to do the school pickup. She had we run 3 spare Shecom laptops, 24/7 running Claude code. And so she had Claude making updates to our website as she was driving, and it was running, and she didn't want to let it go. It was actually, she was running that particular task on her own laptop, so she couldn't let it go quiet because it was on it live on our website fixing stuff. So she took it to this kids drop-off, kids pick-up I think it was in the afternoon, so she videoed that. But the point being, we live in a time in which Claude can analyze your data. 6 minutes later, you have a report that tells you stuff that might have taken your team a month to find in your data. Like, your data mining and being able to run it through AI is a phenomenal tool that we have at our fingertips right now. And the same works for CRO. You can ask it all kinds of things. Find that stuff very fascinating.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing I will say to actually I'm almost like, from an AI perspective, is yes, it's going to be big and it's doing some very cool stuff, but don't get lost in the fact that it's brand and product, you know, like, so.
And it is so
it's,
error prone as well. I read through the commentary sometimes and I'm like, why are you saying that? And if you challenge it, it actually picks up on itself and it goes, oh, you're right, that was unvalidated, or X, Y, Z. So it's important to push back on it at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's really what it comes down to. The things that have really changed a lot is content is king, and they've always said that, but at the end of the day, delivering that smartly and not getting too caught up in, like, because AI can give you a lot of data, there's no doubt about it, but we do know that everyone's going to be engaging with your brand, your content, you know, your products and that sort of thing. So I mean, having a fixation on how that story's being told on the site is never been more critical, like, and especially on mobile where you've got no real estate.
I'd like to talk about branding, because branding is a really important part of a website. We know this to be true, but I think some brands make a potential critical error where they try to make the brands look too cool. And I've worked with some clients and I've interviewed some incredible women, and I still remember one in particular who had a huge lash serum brand doing, you know, 100 grand a month, like big revenues. And she was like, the site that I would like to have, I can't have because it's just too cool, it doesn't work. So our site's kind of ugly, but it fucking sells. So I would like to just have this conversation around, like, at what point do you decide, and I've seen it happen so many times when a brand gets a creative come through and overhaul a website and the conversion tanks. So how do we define between, like, staying on brand and looking edgy and cool and actually having a site that converts into what it is? Because, you know, we forget sometimes and we think website is just an annoying thing we have to keep up to date with our brands. But the truth is, we don't have a Westfield shopping centre store that has all of the sensors that we don't walk in, we can't smell the candle burning, hear the music playing, we don't have LED downlights, we don't have something we can taste or touch, we don't have a lady saying good morning. We're missing all of those tangible pieces. So the website is our only sense that we use, and we have to replace our ability to trust and pull our credit card out with a flat site that only gives us our eyesight. Occasionally a video might autoplay and we get a little bit of hearing, but really we're using one sense. So we're starting behind the 8 block before we even start with a website. So it's your job as brand leaders to make a website that's eminently trustworthy. It doesn't necessarily matter if it looks beautiful. I mean, it's got to stay on brand, but it's got to be trustworthy enough and compelling enough for someone to pull their credit card out and say, I don't give a shit what it costs, I'm taking that. So where's the line sit between keeping a brand curated and bespoke and beautiful and making it convert?
I think it's that classic argument, and I have probably had this debate with about 50 different founders in my time, and it's just that reminder that your website is not actually first and foremost a brand asset. It is a sales tool at the core, and you know, you can have the most beautiful immersive homepage, but if you haven't got those functional elements right, and that's when we're talking about, you know, your search engine results pages, your PDP, your PLP, and obviously most importantly your cart and checkout process, if that's not there, it does not matter how beautiful the homepage is, how beautiful your site content is, it's still not actually going to convert. So I think you've really got to balance you know, that beautification piece with the actual functionality. And I think we are getting better at allowing both of those things to kind of live and breathe together. And I think sometimes founders fall into this habit of thinking, oh, if we remove bits and pieces from the site, we're going to really lose that brand element, but in reality you're actually just giving it more space to kind of live and breathe and really land with the customer. Because, you know, if you look at a wireframe, you really do just get that understanding hit home that the site and the brand is all about the content that you put into it at the end of the day. So you've got the great wireframe, and that's all the functionality and the features that you need, but then, you know, you should still have that space to put in the beautiful content, which is what makes your site your own. Because realistically, you're probably not going to have a feature or a function that 20 million other sites don't also have the ability to replicate.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, again, I often hear, you know, content, beautiful content, everything like that. I think a good tip I would give everyone is, if you're the founder, ask yourself this, but if you're not, ask them the 5 selling points for the product they've created and sit down with them and look at the PDP and see if it's above the fold. That's not rocket science, but that is the best. And honestly, founders, it can sometimes be a bit of a prickly thing to ask, but they'll say, yeah, it's about this, and about this. And when you look above the fold, they don't mention any of it. So their personal selling points for having created that product are not anywhere to be seen. So for me, I feel like that's a really important thing to do, is to be able to say to them, well, let's have a process or a process in place that when you go out to create a product and invest time, money, and you're creating it and you want to sell it, we have to back you as the person who created that, whether you're right or wrong and the customers agree, put that to the top and talk to it. And I think that's something that I think gets overlooked a lot, you know, and it is a tough conversation because sometimes none of those points are at the top. You know?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about PDP pages for a second, because I think that's also a really overlooked part of a website. People they underestimate how important it is to get it right. For me, above the fold in the buy box, there's lots of things that we can customize easily now on Shopify stores. It used to be that you had to pay to someone to code things. Now it's really easy to move things around, but I like to have 5-star reviews. I like to have a transformational statement and a customer testimonial all above the price, between the product description and above the price point, because that is your prime real estate on that page. And when I'm looking at it, first of all, I want to know instantly, my brain goes, there's 5 stars. Somebody says, best hand cream I've ever used in my life. And then somebody else says, this hand cream will transform your hands in 3 days or something. I'm like, bang, there's I don't care what the price is, I'm taking it. So I don't actually need to scroll. So if you've got someone who's ready to buy, they can buy in the buy box, right? And then underneath that, I'm with you. I think that there is certain things, and including for me, it's the FAQs. So I'm a bit old school in that I like FAQs that apply to each product. Now that doesn't work if you have 20,000 SKUs, but let's just say you've got 20 to 100. It's doable. You have a FAQ page for each product, so it can be specific to this mobile phone versus this piece of paper. They have different FAQs, so don't make the customer go hunting for the objection that might stop them from purchasing. Give them the answers on that specific page. It could be sizing, it could be material, it could be returns policy, it could be something really specific to that product. And it is a bit fiddly to do, but man, it can really lift your conversion if you can nail that properly. What about you guys on the product page?
Like one classic mistake that I see with brands as well is don't make the customer leave the PDP to go and find that information.
Correct.
So even if you are serving it up and you're going, okay, here's a link to the FAQs, but you're still taking them away. It's like, can you use an accordion or a drop down, or God forbid, like a little pop-up or something to serve that information, and then they can just click out of it once they're done consuming and they're back to exactly where they were without having to navigate. And that's going to reduce the amount of clicks, the room for distraction, and really do a good job at keeping them focused on the job at hand, which is ultimately converting on that page.
I completely agree.
And same with also, this doesn't work for every brand, depending upon what it is, but the rollover, which then becomes that second gallery image, you can talk on that. It doesn't have to just be a picture. Like it sometimes it needs to be, because it's maybe a brand that can't afford to do it, but you roll over and you see the front and the back, but sometimes the rollover may be more beneficial to actually talk to the things that really, will make you click on it to get to the PDP. And then when you do get the PDP, you've got it again to look at. So I think, you're trying to, in the end, you're trying to get someone to a PDP to add to cart. That's the whole pathway. So that PDP, if you can get them to land on it straight away and sell it, awesome. If you can get them there as fast as possible, awesome. At the end of the day, you want them on there, and you want them to just basically get that into the cart, And I think that's the same thing when people trying to oversell too early other things or trying to do something. At the end of the day, you pay so much money to acquire a customer. If they don't necessarily buy everything you wanted, so long as they buy something, you can talk to them.
Your cost.
Like, you can at least talk to them later. So I think some people have a habit of, on that PDP, having things coming in from everywhere and buy this, and some people, you click on it and you're gone and you don't get back, and it can be dangerous.
Something that I've seen lately from some brands, and this is probably a little bit innovative still at this point in time, but I've seen some really nice executions lately. One example that you can go have a look at is the For Love and Lemons website, and what some brands are doing now is actually making it self-serve. So instead of going, okay, we know exactly what this customer may want to see, they're going, we actually have no idea, because every customer is different. So let's actually embed a tool that's going to allow them to search that information within the PDP page, and then then all of a sudden it's completely customized to that customer and what they want to know. So there's certain AI tools now, such as Profound, that you can actually embed into your PLP or your PDP, and it's essentially just a little text box that has a prompt, tell me what you need to know, and then it's going to self-serve that information up to the customer. So that's kind of taking it to that next level of personalization. And I think now that we have more out-of-the-box products enabling that at a reasonably accessible price point, we're going to see more and more of that, and it's soon going to become the norm and the customer expectation over time.
I have another pet hate, putting my shopper hat on for a moment, and to be honest, I find it actually often sits more in the medium to enterprise level websites that should be ashamed because they probably have big teams that could fix this. And that's just really good image carousel stacks. And for somebody who wants to buy, so let's just call it a t-shirt, for example, you know, I want to see the t-shirt in multiple angles and probably on multiple body sizes if I can. It's something that Bird's Nest always did really well, for example, is showing something being worn by different body shapes so that I could visualize how this would fit into my body shape. Or, for example, if it's a beauty product, I want to see it smeared on a mirror or a piece of glass. Plus, I want to see somebody, maybe it's a video gif of someone actually putting it on and they look happy, not miserable. It's always a good helping tip. But I feel like the more you can give me, I'm a really kinesthetic buyer. I want to see it. And if I can see it, then I'm going to add it to cart. But I will, honestly, 7 times out of 10, especially for brands that do have wide SKU varieties when it comes to lots of fashion and beauty, there's like 2 photos. I'm like, it's just not enough. You just didn't hook me. You got me on the page, but I didn't buy because it just wasn't enough. And it's, sure, it takes team and it takes attention to fix that, but it's not actually that complicated to fix either. So that's one of my bugbears.
And some brands are actually utilizing AI now too. So they'll do the shoot, but then they're going to show it on different models and, you know, different ethnicities, different sizes. So you can go, well, that sports bra looked fantastic on that size 6 model, but how's it actually going to look on
with
me?
Actual boobs?
And it really reduces that barrier to purchase. You know, and it's so important with e-commerce, right? Because you're not going to get an opportunity to try it on. A lot of brands still don't offer seamless returns, and so you've got to know that it's going to work for you before you actually have the confidence to go ahead and make the purchase. I think Age Athletica have always done a really great job of that. You can go on their website and look at a sports bra, and it's going to show you not just 2 models, but quite often you'll see 3 or 4 different girls wearing the same product, and then they'll have each girl's size listed below. What's she wearing? What's her usual size? Is she recommending to size up or down? And I would imagine that does an incredible job for their conversion rates. It would be so interesting to actually test what the uplift was on a page that had versus didn't have.
Well, I buy from them, so I can tell you it does work because I do look at those images and I do look at the sizes, and I'll even get a tape measure out sometimes because I'll be like, she has a, you know, blah blah centimetre waist, and I'll go check it and be like, yeah, that is actually me.
And then you know, and that's kind of crossing that gap that you don't have that tangible in-store experience where you can give it a stretch, hold it up, or go into a fitting room and try it on. I think that's kind of the best way that we can bridge that gap for the customer.
And I think if you dial that back one step too, because you mentioned it before, is let the customers know that you've got a good return process.
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is, that actually fixes some of that problem straight away. If a customer feels really comfortable that they can return it, so even messaging that above the fold, near the add to cart button, where they are literally going to go, you know, you can say to them, hey, you know what, we're not going to, there's no problems. If it doesn't fit, no, it's a bit like when you used to go into a store, and I don't go into a lot of store shopping, but if you do go into, you know, that people often used to say, or the, you know, crew, they go, hey, don't worry about it. If you take it home and you don't like it, bring it back into the store. You need to sort of emulate that on a site as well, so they get to that.
Honestly, I like that in the announcement bar.
Yeah.
I personally, as a shopper,
anywhere you can put it.
It's a USP that's actually unique, because I think the customer assumption these days, for me, I know as a fact, is that it's not going to be easy, because 9 times out of 10 it's not. And I think a lot of the USPs that we communicate are not actually that unique. They're things like, you know, it's free shipping above X amount, whatever. We all know that most brands are going to offer that, whereas a really, truly seamless returns process, that's not run of the mill, and so it's actually unique and worthwhile having really in a prominent way.
And it's worth it, because if you, coming back to your conversation at the very beginning, if you are hitting someone up 4 or 5 times with paid, and it's costing you that much money, if you can convince someone, because your returns process is easy, you're going to make, and they go at 2 times, you just save, like, you don't realise how much you can save. So the faster you can get someone to buy without having to hit them with another ad and another ad, we know how expensive it's getting, you know, everything's better. So, and again, they sound like things that are sort of common sense, which they are, but it's
they're so
surprising how much
often
they get overlooked.
And particularly enterprise do this really badly. I remember in COVID, I was trying to do a home crafting thing, and I went onto the Spotlight website, and I must have gone through 19 pages trying to find their free shipping, because I'm the one that goes, how much do I need to spend to get free shipping? Well, I'm just going to buy something I don't really need so I don't pay shipping. That's me. I'm probably one of those stupid shoppers. And I was like, how much more do I need to spend to get free shipping? And the truth is that they don't do free shipping at all. You always pay shipping. I don't know if they've changed it yet, but I will never try again, because it was such a shitty experience for me as a user that I was like, I am never buying from them ever again, because it took me 19 pages to discover there is no free shipping. The point being, make it really easy. So I like announcement bars plus footer plus the accordion on every single frickin' product page should tell me what the shipping threshold is and what your returns policy is without even me having to go. Because remember, that consumer is looking for a reason not to buy from you. If you give them a choice, do you want to spend money on my site or not? Most people are tight-assed and don't really want to, but you've probably got a product that will solve a problem they face, but they'll bounce if they're worried in any way that your product is either not trustworthy or is not returnable or might not fit or just might not be what they're looking for. So you have to give them every bit of confidence that the purchase with you. And I even say to people, like, give a free returns policy and also give a really good guarantee. Like, you know, we guarantee that you'll love your product or return it free for 30 days. And they're like, oh, but what if? And I'm like, there are dickheads out there. You're always gonna have some dickheads. There's nothing you can do about that. But you're gonna sell more because of that policy, then you are going to find dickheads in the world. So one is going to outweigh the other, and you're going to sell more. So do it.
And
like,
same with that fly out cart too. I was going to say just quickly that message, to your point, telling someone where they're at in that journey and they're close to free shipping, when they get free shipping, making it clear on the fly out cart.
That's a dopamine hit.
You know that you've got free shipping. That's so easy. Like, I mean, if you don't have something saying, hey, spend another X and you've got free shipping, or hey, congrats, you've got free shipping, super easy to do.
And I think that's where it's well thought out, that cross-sell, upsell piece, because one pet peeve of mine lately is that everyone is just thrashing the cross-sell, upsell modules, and it's like, don't get so greedy at checkout that you actually lose a customer because you're trying to get more out of them than they're actually ready for. If that's a first-time customer, it might be a big deal that they're actually buying that dress, and then if you try and shove 4 more dresses down their throat by the time they actually get to the checkout, you might end up with somebody that's got decision paralysis, and all of a sudden they're actually not going to purchase that first item that they were about to anymore.
And I think, to your point too, that brand thing is, if someone makes that purchase and they maybe didn't get exactly what you were hoping they would take, but then you send them an email, and this is so important but doesn't get done as well, is at a certain point, hey, how are you enjoying the product?
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing with the
Personalised
product?
from the brand founder. Hey guys, it's
that's,
Lisa here.
again, so
I just
easy
wanted to
do.
check. And you can do a plain text email, and it looks like I genuinely wrote it to that person, and she's like, oh my God, the founder emailed me.
It's super powerful. Like, you know, you send that to someone and you're actually not, and don't make it salesy. Like, it's not about
genuine
selling,
connection.
It's about actually saying, is there anything we can help you with? If you head to this page, we can tell you more about your product. We hope you, because I think that in itself, because again, with paid media, that repeat purchase, if you're ever going to get that back, that you just, it's almost like, don't jam too much down everyone's throat in that first purchase.
Exactly.
Do the right thing on the way out the door. Then when you hit them up and say, hey, do you want to come back? They've got a better feeling, so they'll come back.
Not to mention, it's a wealth of really valuable information as well. So we set that up at Outcast. We had it going back into our customer service inbox, and the customers that actually took the time to write something, look, a lot of the time it's negative, but you do get some incredible
But you catch it before they can do a review.
That are really positive, and you know, it's either going to be really positive or really negative. But that is free information. You're not paying for a focus group. You're just getting all of this valuable information directly from a customer that's just experienced your brand.
Yeah, and speaking to that for just a moment, one of my absolute pet hates as well is a brand that doesn't recognise their repeat and most loyal customers, because this is a really common thing. There are 3 major Australian retailers that I will not name from the stage, but whom I wear all the time. They're semi-household names in fashion, and none of them have, I've spent at least between 10 and 15 grand each on these brands. and not a single one of them has ever sent me a personalised email or loyalty. They don't even have loyalty programs.
I need your email
to be honest.
address.
I know. I know, it's embarrassing,
Start
really.
sending you some
but
stuff.
the point is, if you do have customers that have purchased at least 3 to 19 times from you, for fuck's sakes, thank them. Send them little personal things. Give them $100 towards a new pair of shoes this month, or whatever it might be. Like, make people feel loyal and loved and seen, and they will stay with you forever. But if you don't, you miss the opportunity to have an absolute diehard group of people out there spruiking for you and your brand. And on that note, we are actually out of time. Has anyone got any burning questions?
Oh.
Was that valuable in some form? Yes.
That was great. I have many questions. A quick one is, do you recommend Shopify Plus? Do you recommend the investment?
So the question is Shopify Plus worth the investment? And Shopify, I don't think they're actually here, so we can probably speak freely. What do you guys think?
I would say yes any day of the week. Like, I mean, I started out my e-commerce career back in the day on a really old school custom job working with Glassons, and they are actually about to, or in the process of making the switch finally to Shopify Plus about 13 years later. I then went to a brand where we utilized BigCommerce, which is also fantastic, but I think for me, like, I'm just a diehard Shopify Plus fan. I think that is the way the world's going. You are always going to get kind of first cab off the rank when it comes to applications, integrations. You save a lot of money on building out, you know, your own bespoke integrations. A lot of the stuff is just out of the box these days. So I would say for me, like, I've never been with a brand that's made the upgrade and regretted it.
I'd say no. I'm the opposite. If you're not, it depends on how much you're making. And I'm not going to ask. But there is certain points you have to have it, you know, and if you want to, you know, but they've now, you can see they're now bringing in markets, small amount of markets, but you've got opportunities there. You really have to ask that because it's expensive, you know, and it becomes expensive. So you really just have to trade off what are the gaps you've got, because there's no doubt Shopify Plus, some brands should absolutely be on it, but I would definitely say have some good conversations with some good people before you make that plunge, and really make sure you've sort of stretched everything you can out of it first before you make the jump. Like, definitely.
Yeah, and my final way would just be, it's a numbers thing. Like, there's a point at which a brand might be beneficial for them, but probably you'd need to know exactly why and have a really clear case for there being features or benefits or savings that would make it financially viable, because it's a pretty big jump.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks very much. Hopefully
Thank you.
that was valuable.